Xian Yeo Woon said he was curious why it must never fall into their hands. The great elder answered that he could hardly believe it, but if what they said was true, they claimed the 5 spirits would allow one to enjoy eternal life, immortality, and indestructibility. Manhwa asked the great elder whether eternal life and immortality were even possible. The great elder answered that if what they say is true, once someone obtains all 5 spirit cores, it is possible. Xian Yeo Woon thought that sounded no different from being ageless and undying. If that's the case, it winked. Xian Yeo Woon's obsession with those cores. Then he remembers the vision he saw when the Nano Machine entered self-repair mode. At that time, it said the one called the Blade God had lived for nearly 1,000 years. If the Blade God truly is the leader of the Blade God 6 martial clan, then he really did attain eternal life. In the original history, he must have been the one who obtained the cores of the 5 spirit beasts. But in this timeline, Xian Yeo Woon obtained them first. That was not something he intended to do. He started with the cores of the dragon, Kylan, Phoenix, Dragon Turtle, and White Tiger. The spiritual power of the Amuji. Then the Fire Kylan of the Imperial Tomb, and the Dragon Turtle of the Northern Sea. The Great Bang spiritual power from within the walls of the Northern Sea Ice Palace was also something I gained through a chain of coincidences. It almost feels predetermined. If I were to gain the White Tiger's energy core, as grandfather says, would I truly gain eternal life and immortality? I've never even wished for that. It's absurd. Grandfather says, perhaps it's for the best. If the leader of the Blade God 6 martial clan were to obtain eternal life, the entire martial world would fall under his control. Then relieved, he points to Xian Yeo Woon and says, it's fortunate that you have taken 3 of the cores. Or, actually, Xian Yeo Woon thinks. No, better not to mention that yet. Grandfather continues, the clan leader must have also taken a Great Peng's core at Podalat Palace. Xian Yeo Woon puzzles over the Great Peng. So, another Great Peng existed somewhere. Given the North Sea Ice Palace's ancient relics, that's possible. Your grandfather says that if that man took the Great Peng core, his next target will surely be the last remaining White Tiger core. Even though you've acquired 3 cores, you must not let your guard down. He explains that the first time he faced the Blade God inside the lair of the 6 Ultimate Blade Sect, under the pretext of testing the Iron Trial stage, the Blade God single-handedly fought 20 martial masters while they were hypnotized. When at the time, your grandfather had already freed himself from the hypnosis by circulating the reversal tendon art. So, he thought it was the perfect moment, and attacked with everything he had. But the results shocked him. 2 Supreme Masters and 18 Superior Masters attacked together, yet they could not even withstand a single instant of the Blade God's assault. Xian Yeo Woon, the Blade God is truly a monster, your grandfather warns. If the Blade God manages to acquire more than 2 cores, then even if you possess 3, the Left Guardian, Sudming, urgently tells Xian Yeo Woon, seize the White Tiger's core before he does. If that happens, even the Blade God may not be able to stand against you. He adds that he witnessed the Blade God's technique with his own eyes, a blade art that transcended the limits of the human body itself. He asks if Xian Yeo Woon has seen the rubbings of the Heavenly Demon Sword art in the Academy's library. The only technique that can match the Blade God's art is the Heavenly Demon Sword art lifted by their founder, Xian Ma. Sudming reveals that fortunately, before infiltrating the Blade God's 6 martial clan, he took the time to recreate the energy circulation method for the Heavenly Demon Sword art, a version that can unleash at least 70 of its full power. Excited, Sudming insists they must not delay. Starting today, I will personally teach you the energy circulation method, he declares. With your talent, you will be able to fully revive the lost Heavenly Demon Sword art. Xian Yeo Woon then asks for forgiveness, and reveals that he has already discovered the true energy circulation method left by the founder. On the Azure Jade Pole, he has completed the Heavenly Demon Sword art. Grandfather is stunned, exclaiming that even for his own grandson, this is unbelievable. Xian Yeo Woon thinks that if he told his grandfather he also fused the Heavenly Demon Sword art with the extreme art of the Blade God, his grandfather might faint. 5 days later, at the port, a ship is ready to depart. Tin Bag, Eon begs Xian Yeo Woon to stay a little longer before leaving. Yeo Woon tells him not to say things he doesn't mean. Danbei Eon protests, how could you think that? There's still so much I want to learn. Xian Yeo Woon replies that he has already taught him everything he can. He has received all the formulas of the profound cold ice, and Yeo Woon will check later whether he has mastered them properly. Surprised, Danbei Eon asks if Yeo Woon will check. With a threatening tone, Yeo Woon reminds him, you're my first disciple. Did you really think I would let it slide? He'll assign 5 members of the 6th Swords unit to stay and make sure Dan Baek Eon doesn't slack off. Dan Baek Eon bows and promises he won't disappoint him. Xian Yeo Woon thinks the kid not only lacks basic talent but, despite being born into a martial family, has little interest in martial arts. If the Northern Sea Ice Palace's future is considered, the rightful successor should be Dan Jichen. Frankly, Dan Baek Eon has just been luckier. That's all. On the ship, Xian Yeo Woon announces their departure and tells them not to neglect their training. Dan Baek Eon replies, "Yes, Master." Hubong suggests renaming the Northern Sea Ice Palace now that Yeo Woon has taken them under his command. Something like Heavenly Demon Cult Northern Branch. Sounds badass, doesn't it? He doesn't finish the sentence, as he gets punched in the head. Nursing his head, Hubong says, "My head's not a drum for you to pound on." One of Xian Yeo Woon's subordinates tells him everything else was fine but asks Hubong to learn to keep his mouth shut. On the ship, 3 members of the Northern Sea Ice Palace, including Din Jishin, watch silently. The scene shifts to the captured Murim Alliance members. Young Master Moyon telepathically asks the strategist, Shigul, about their fate. Shigul advises him not to be anxious. As hostages, they are unlikely to be harmed. She believes they are being held as part of a deal to compel the Martial Alliance to send troops, meaning it is too soon for the heavily demonic cult to openly clash with them. Furthermore, prioritizing the elimination of the Blade God 6 martial clan is also beneficial for the Murim Alliance. Young Master Moyon insists to Jigul that they must escape at the first opportunity. He describes the cult's leader as a cold-blooded man who wouldn't hesitate to sever limbs or kill them all over the slightest displeasure, and they could end up like the others. Jigul questions the feasibility of escape, but Moyon is adamant that they cannot give up, believing there is always a way out, even if the heavens fall. Just then, one of Xian Yeo Woon's men summons the young master. Moyon trembles, wondering, "The Lord. Wait, I haven't done anything. I've been on my best behavior." Jigul sighs, thinking to himself, "And yet you were just planning to escape." The nerve. In Xian Yeo Woon's presence, Moyon is questioned about the Moyon clan's residence in Liaoning province and his familiarity with its geography. Breaking into a cold sweat, he confirms this, wondering why the Lord is suddenly asking about geography, and fearing that he plans to move against the Moyon clan. Xian Yeo Woon then instructs him that upon their arrival in Liaoning, he is to guide them to Mount Che. The scene changes to the 10,000 Mountains, the headquarters of the heavenly demonic cult, inside the Supreme Elder's training chamber. Xian Yeo Woon's father, the Supreme Elder, is speaking with Great Guardian Subming. The Supreme Elder asks if he has found his father. Subming replies, "That's not all," and reveals that the Lord has brought the Northern Sea Ice Palace under the cult's rule. Shocked, Xian Yeo Woon's father lists his son's astounding accomplishments, changing the state religion, claiming the imperial capital Kaon as their territory, and now absorbing the Northern Sea Ice Palace. One Subming proudly states that he recognized Xian Yeo Woon's potential from the beginning and that accepting him as a disciple was a true blessing for the cult. Internally, the Supreme Elder thinks, "My child has far surpassed me," and, declaring it a joyous day, invites Subming for a drink. As Subming begins to accept, the Supreme Elder suddenly attacks, which Subming dodges by a hair's breadth. The Supreme Elder exits the chamber, and Subming calls after him, asking what is wrong. He replies that for a moment, he could have sworn someone was eavesdropping. Subming protests that the Supreme Elder's hall is the most heavily guarded chamber in the cult, and no one, not even one of the 5 great guardians, could approach undetected. The Supreme Elder admits he must have been mistaken, though he thinks to himself that even with his weakened life force, he shouldn't be making such an error. The scene shifts again to the peak of Mount Hoan in the 10,000 Mountains. An injured, unknown figure materializes. It is the descendant of Xian Yeo Woon who implanted him with the Nano Machine. He thinks, "There's no way the Supreme Elder could have seen me with those eyes, and yet he sensed me. That monster defies all reason. What am I still doing in the past?"